It's a very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on Tuesday night. I do apologise for coming on Tuesday, but as you know, there was a game on Monday, so I can't do the West Ham Weekly and be at the game at the same time. So I hope you're all doing well, and I hope you've kind of gotten over, or not yet, maybe, the defeat against Newcastle. I'm going to talk about that later on, of course, and give you my opinion and my view on what's going on at West Ham. And of course, the theme of tonight's show is it more of the same under Graham Potter? Is it boring West Ham, a bit like the fans were saying under Lopetegui and also under David Moyes? We'll look at that later on in the show. Of course, there's the usual roundup as well that I've been going through too. But before anything, let's go into the chat and say a good evening to everybody that's here. Good evening to you, Foxes. I hope you're well. It wasn't a nice watch, was it? It wasn't great, but I'm not so sure. Maybe I'm easily pleased, as I was told by one viewer. Maybe I'm too easily pleased. There wasn't a lot of cutting edge in the final third of the pitch, but was it that bad? I don't know. I'm getting, maybe it's me. Good evening to you, Ray. I hope you're well. I had a nice winner at Cheltenham, but it's in a double with your turning up. It's in a double with me turning up on time. Please don't let me know. I think I've done quite well. I think I was on time, wasn't I? So congrats to that. Foxes, not the same formation as Moyes, but it felt like watching Moyes ball last night. Our midfield is slow. Moyes must be rubbing his hands, waiting for us. Well, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? This coming weekend. Who else we got? Foxes again. Newcastle were crap and they're there for the taking. Instead of bringing on the attackers from the start, he sets up like that. Let's talk about that later on because I've got a theory. You may or you may not agree with me, but you hear me out and we'll see what you think. Daniela, is Potter criticism justified? A big fat no. We had a very poor start to the season when we just need to get through it and start again in the summer. We fans just need to relax and calm down. Good shout. Good evening to you, Stephen. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Kent. How are you? Why do you think West Ham are better team away from home than at home? Our best performances this season have come from, well, there is obviously the fan base issue, isn't there? I mean, you know, Kent, away from home, the fans are relentless, the away fans. We sing from start to finish. But isn't that now happening across all the fan base in the Premier League? It seems that the away fans seem to be an awful lot better than the home when we're at home. Maybe a few exceptions. Maybe Nottingham Forest is a decent, they're decent home fans there as well as away. I don't know. Maybe because of that. Maybe we give them that lift. And maybe there's this anxiety at West Ham United at the moment playing at home. Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it last night, Ken, and we were still in the game, 20 minutes to go, and fans were flooding out of the stadium. Now, all right, you could say it was poor, etc., and fans can vote with their feet. I totally get that. But when you're only a goal down, if the game was finished, if we were 3 or 4-0 down, I'd get why fans were leaving 20 minutes before the end of the game. But we were a goal down, and we kind of still were trying. All right, we didn't have that cutting edge up front, but we were still trying to keep in the game. And that doesn't help, does it? It helps. We talk about the atmosphere being damp. I think we've got to take responsibility for that as a fan base as well, haven't we? I don't know. You tell me. Usual. So much hope and promise at the beginning of the season. It seems we will limp over the line and start afresh next season. Kent again. I was there last night. Same as you. The atmosphere was dead. I'm worried the lack of atmosphere, the general low of the London Stadium is affecting the players. Says something not clicking at home. But, when I think about the start of that game, we had something to cheer about. The team set off on a front foot, and there was that excitement. We were quite excited for the first few minutes, until Newcastle got into the game, and the fans reacted to that. But then the fans went quiet. The one thing I'm finding at the London Stadium is we sort of we do little bursts. We do a little chant, we're singing, etc. But it's not relentless. It doesn't keep going on and on and on. We do it and then we slow down, and then we stop, and then it takes forever to get us going again. Good evening to you, Epic. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Phil. How are you? Can't see much change for next season. There is no money. Well, you're going to have to watch a show later on this week that I'm currently putting together to have an idea. Is that we don't need money, and I'll explain why in the show. Anthony, good evening to you. We kept passing the ball backwards, and Areola kept kicking the ball upfield, allowing Newcastle to come back at us. Was Moyes in the dugout because Potter didn't have an idea. Stephen, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Alien Human, good evening to you. We have to clean this ship Moyes and Lopetegui brought to the club. Old, useless, and overpaid, must leave. And there's an element of that, isn't there? You know, we're judging. There's a lot of people that are judging Potter already, and yet Potter has one player in that squad. Not that I think he's actually doing that well, that one player being Ferguson, but he's dealing with, he's dealing with a team of players, a squad of players that aren't his. Now, look, in all honesty, he's sorted us out. He's got us more defensive minded. We needed that, and fair play to him. But unfortunately, when you sort one thing out, you've got to try and then fix something else. It's not all going to work at once, unfortunately. Pash. Good evening to you, Pash. My fellow distinguished gentleman, latest score, Putney 0, Romford 1. It's an in-joke. Don't worry. Now you need to add Sheen to that league now as well, don't you, Pash? Anthony, Moyes must be relishing the weekend, knowing that 3 points. Well, is it? Is it? This is the beauty of football. This is the beauty of football. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. Chip, good evening, mate. The first 10 minutes in the first half and the last 10 of the second was all we had against Newcastle. Other than that, I felt we struggled against them. We certainly failed to break them down. You know, that was the upsetting. That was the annoying thing. And I make you right. First 10, the last 10, we were trying to get in there. Glenn, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Just looked at our remaining fixtures, and if we continue to play this awful, slow football, we will not make 40 points. Can only see us getting 6 more. We're safe. You know, and I know it doesn't. I know it's an easy cop-out, but we're safe. We're not going down, even if we do only get 6 points. Toher, good evening to you. I hope you're well. I didn't mean to demean that, Glenn. You got a good point there. Usual. Disaster today, Toher at Cheltenham. See, betting. I don't even know how to bet. So there you go. Quebec Hammer. Good evening to you. I hope you're well. The match was not that bad, like some people were saying, but we don't have someone to shoot from far. Yeah. See, this is it. I came out of that game last night and I did the immediate post-match review, and I said it's kind of like I was frustrated because I genuinely did think we should have gotten something out of that game. I'm not suggesting for a minute that we should have won, but I certainly think we should have walked away with at least a point. Graham, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Give us, West Ham, give us some entertainment at least. You know, ironically, Kent is right. The away games, and I think Kent would agree with me on this, the away games have been excellent. You know, the 2 against Aston Villa, etc., game against Chelsea, a game against Arsenal, and so on. You know, we've actually entertained. We've actually done really well. It's the home form. I don't know what is going on with the home form. Maybe it is the fans. Maybe it is the stadium. Maybe it's just the play. Maybe it's a mixture of it all. Vonnie, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Still getting over last night's disappointment. Paul Evans, evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Daniela, sorry, not liking how we're turning on our players. Yet the season's not gone to plan, but we cannot do anything until the summer. There is no need to turn on players. You're absolutely correct. We have what we have. And Potter is trying to make the best out of a bad deal. Bill, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Just walking the dog and listening intently. I hope you're well. Thank you for listening in, mates. Lee, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Stephen, do you think Graham Potter needs to go? No, absolutely not. Why? You know, he's got a squad of players that aren't his. He's making do the best of them. You know, one of the things that he's having to deal with is what someone said a moment ago, is having to get the Moyes and the Lopetegui out of a lot of these players. You know, that's going to take time. Potter out? Not at all. Not at all. Hammer Mikey, hello, mate. I hope you're well. Someone informed me that there was a tit on the head. Yes, mate. You know what? You know, it shocked me last week, mate. I can't remember which show it was, but someone turned up and went, I mean, it's awful. A stupid thing for someone to have done. So my apologies to you for even me putting it up on there, because I wasn't, it was like, it caught me by surprise. It's a load of crap. Clearly it is. Same person who's been going around all Hammers pages spreading rubbish I'm very much alive, and good to hear it too, mate. You know, some people are odd. You know, as the Doors song goes, people are strange, especially on bloody line. They are. Nil. Enjoy evening. I didn't enjoy Leicester win, so wasn't overly keen on the starting lineup, but I was so bored and detached with what I was watching, I turned off at halftime. Douglas, good evening to you as well. More defensive minded isn't what it seems the fans want. What do we want? Do we want to let, you know, it was only a matter of a few months ago where we were complaining that and last season we were complaining that teams were hammering 3, 4, 5 past us. That stopped, but that has a price to pay. Unfortunately, you know, the defensive fix has had an impact on the way we're playing our attack. And I'm going to come to that later on. So I'll get through these comments as quickly as I can. Charles, it's not a couch manager. Be able to learn the players and use them. It is not a coach manager. Be able to learn the players and use the best of them. It's not a coach being able to learn play. And that's what I think he's trying to do without a shadow of a doubt. That's exactly what I think he's trying to do. He is trying to get the best out of them. We've certainly gotten better defensively. You can't deny that. But now we've got to work on our attack. Hammers Mikey, usual. I don't watch a lot of Hammers chats at the moment, but it's a Sammy Bromley. I think it was someone like that, mate, going about saying, I dropped dead on, mate, what is wrong with people? Christine, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Michael. Has Potter turned into a Moyes Part 2? Defensive, we had a total of 2 shots. No, I don't think he has. But wait for it. Let me try and explain it as I move forward, and I'll get there as quickly as I can. Ian, not a great game by any means, but no panic from me. He's making do with a team that is not his. But I do admit I set up for the game, and some subs were a little concerned. They were. And I'm going to talk about that as well. Juha, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Kevin. We are better away. What is wrong with playing at London Stadium for us? Good show tonight. Thank you very much for the show, mate. I don't know. I don't know. Are the players going out with a bit of apprehension, you know, knowing that it's going to be a tough task trying to get the crowd behind them? I don't know. It's weird, you know, and I know one feeds off the other. But who needs to start it? If the players aren't doing it, then why not the fans start chanting and see if that lifts the players? Maybe. I don't know. Adam, all right. Poor performance yesterday. This season is over really for me. But still, let's go see how next season goes. Then we can see what Potter can do. Still the best. Thank you very much, mate. Much appreciated. Ray. Kick them in the nuts. Everton 0, West Ham 1, Souček to score. That's what I was thinking as well. Michael, I did see a thing. Potter said it's down to Lopiera. He had to sort out the defence first, which he's done, and the cost of our attack to start putting things right. And it is. That's what's going on. Razor, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Spot on Stealth. I actually think he's Harry Potter, maybe. Taken on none of his players, and next season, let's see his team. Exactly. I will judge him on next season. I will judge him on what he does next season. Right, let's shoot through the general news, and then we're obviously going to get and analyze the game, and then talk about, you know, what is it about Graham Potter that people are already not liking? That worries me. It really actually does worry me. Everyone's got a, you know, right to have an opinion, etc. Don't get me wrong. If we all thought alike, the world would be a boring place. But it certainly worries me that fans seem to be already turning on Graham Potter before he's really had a chance to develop his own squad. Okay, let's go into some of the latest details. So the women's team, first of all. So last week, the women's team played Man City, and they got a deserved draw. Manuela Pavi got a 91st minute equaliser against Man City with just 10 minutes to go. A 91st minute equaliser. They went ahead with 10 minutes to go. Looked like they were going to win the game. Now the women's team are 9 points above the relegation zone. So it's finally coming good for them. And I'm pleased for them. Next home game is Spurs, 23rd of March. So let's support them with that. Now, the Academy News Roundup. The under-21's 7-goal winning streak has come to an end. What? I hear you say? What's going on here? It's not that bad. Last week, we played Liverpool away from home. And it was a weird game because the 2 goals that were scored, it was a 1-1 finish, were both own goals. On the 69th minute, a misplaced back pass rolled into an empty Liverpool net. And then on the 95th minute, the last minute of time of game time, Lewis Orford mistimed his clearance header, and it inadvertently headed straight into his own into his own net. With Liverpool losing at the weekend as well, or last week as well, that means Man City are now 5 points clear of Fulham, who are, did I say Liverpool? Why did I say Liverpool? That's who we played. With Fulham, I should say, losing at the weekend and West Ham drawing, the lead at the top for Man City now is 5 points over Liverpool and 6 points over West Ham. All teams have now played the same number of games. The next game for the under-21s is a home game against Leicester this coming Friday. So 8 games unbeaten, 7 of those, 7, I'll put 4 up, 7 of those were wins. The under-18s, well, the under-18s are up and down a little bit. Last week, they played twice. The first game was in the Premier League Cup semi-final against Derby, where they won 3-1. And now they booked themselves in the final against Reading. And I'm waiting for the date and the venue to be announced and whether we can buy tickets to go and watch that. That would be really worthwhile. Josh Ajala. Remember this name, people, as yet it gets stolen the limelight with a brace in that game against Derby. First goal coming after 16 minutes and then his second coming on the 75th minute. In between, Josh Landers got West Ham's second goal on a minute after the first goal went in. Derby did pull a goal back before half-time, but the game was over, 3-1, and we've now booked our place in the final. The under-18s have done exceptionally well this season, given that many of them are playing in the under-18s for the first time, because a lot of the under-18s who were in that squad last season have moved up to the under-21s, or 1 or 2 of them have also gone out on loan as well. So well done to them. They're doing okay. Now, they had another game after that 3 days later in the under-18s league, and they, unfortunately, they lost 3-1 against Crystal Palace. Josh Landers got another goal again, but unfortunately that was not enough to see us get a win. Next game for the under-18s is against Fulham this coming Sunday. Right, loan watch. We've had an awful lot of players out on playing on loan last weekend. First up is Maxwell Cornet, who notched his second goal for Genoa, scoring the equaliser in a 1-1 draw away to Cagliari. The result moves Genoa 10 points clear of the relegation zone in Serie A. Now, apparently, Cornet suffered a thigh flexor injury. However, it's believed to be minor. He might be out for maybe a couple of weeks. And at this stage, we don't believe it to be any worse than that. But watch out. He might be coming back for treatment at West Ham. Now, having just played 90 minutes for Real Sociedad in the Europa League round of 16 against Man United in midweek, Nijvergaard retained his place in the heart of the defence for Sociedad's La Liga fixture at home to Sevilla. But it was Sevilla who scored and secured a 1-0 win to leapfrog Real Sociedad in La Liga. Freddie Potts made his first championship appearance in a month, returning from a calf injury as Portsmouth beat league leaders Leeds United. Another assured midfield performance from Potts helped his team claim their 4th win in 5 games, moving them 10 points clear of the relegation zone. So well done to Freddie Potts for coming back and being an integral part again in that Portsmouth team. Also in the Championship, George Earthy's Bristol City lost a little bit of ground in the fight for playoff places as they were held to a 1-1 draw by 10-man Hull. Earthy came on in the final 20 minutes of the game. In League One, Callum Marshall, his Huddersfield Town team, dropped out of the playoff places for the first time since October with a 1-0 defeat away to Bristol Rovers. Marshall led the Huddersfield attack, but his team couldn't find a response to Bristol's goal. Following their 7th defeat in 11 games, Huddersfield announced the dismissal of head coach Michael Duff. Now, how that affects Marshall's loan spell for the rest of the season remains to be seen. Let's hope it's not detrimental. In the Vanarama National League, Regan Clayton's Dagenham and Redbridge almost held out against league leaders Barnet, but for a stoppage time winner. That was Clayton's 6th start for the Daggers since his loan move there. In National League South, Mason Terry's Hornchurch extended their unbeaten run to 5 matches with a goalless draw at home to Maidstone United. The result marked back-to-back clean sheets for Terry, bringing his tally of 10 clean sheets for the season. Well done to him. In Hungary, Christian Hegi's Debreceni suffered a narrow 1-0 defeat to reigning Hungarian champions Ferencváros. And finally, Kurt Zuma featured in the second half of Al Aroba's 2-1 loss to Al Ettifaq in the Saudi Pro League. Right. Going to get on. See, look how fast that was, because I'm going to get on to talking about the game now, a bit more sort of detail. But let's see what other comments we have before I do that. Daniela, by the way, I think we should have had a penalty, though the Newcastle fans say no. Well, we're going to talk about that too. Victor, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. It's a worry that we have spent so much money, yet look, an old and slow side. Midfield needs slow side. Midfield needs major work. Michael, our midfield is non-existent at the moment. Newcastle will totally bust us. Why was our best central defensive midfielder as a 10? Our best central defensive mid... Who? Alvarez or Souček or James Ward-Prowse? Stephen, I can't judge Potter until next season. I totally agree. Steve, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Potter's charm in the first Cheltenham race tomorrow. Okay, you talk. I don't do betting. Anyway, no How tonight. Where is How tonight? Razor. Paul, me too. Looked at pen both hands on Kilman and push. You don't bend like that on your own in the air. You don't indeed. We're going to talk about both of those issues. Bonnie, Potter is much better than Lopetegui. Would agree with that. Glennie, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. It was odd that Areola kept hitting long balls to Kudus, who was up against their big centre half, bypassing our midfield. If that was a tactic, then Ferguson should have been on. I agree with that. If that was a tactic, then Ferguson should have been on. But I'm going to talk about Ferguson later on as well. Juha, why would some fans not turn on Potter? Why would some fans not turn on Potter? They've turned on all managers. Keep calm and believe in the future. That is so true. And I did think to myself, you know, if we turned on a manager who won us a trophy, then what chance does any other manager have? What chance? Anyway, nil. If we're all safe, then what's the harm in trying more attacking approach? I don't think most of us who... I think I'm going to rewrite that, aren't you? Kevin, I like Potter the manager. Speaks... I like Potter the manager speaks the walk, but not his players. He would need time and money from club to back him. I agree with that. Jack, will he get the money, though? There is a method, though. I'm doing a show about that later this week. Jack, Potter has limited options in midfield from an offensive perspective. Good point. Yeah, fair play. Good point. Nigel, hi to you, mate. I hope you're well. Part of the problem is a bunch of fans turning their back on the team, only 1-0 down. Imagine how the players and manager feels about these so-called supporters. Look, I'm not going to lie to you. Look, each to their own. Each to their own. I'm not having a go at people who leave early. But when I started seeing people flooding out with 20 minutes to go, I was like, why? You know, we're not losing 3-4-0. We were losing 1-0. And fans were flooding out of the stadium. And I was like, is it that bad that you can't stay to at least the 80th, 90th minute or something like that? Weird. Michael, hope Newcastle win the cup final. Liverpool 1-0 down, still looking like extra time. Does that affect us? I don't know. I'm thinking about the final and the impact that might have on our game against Liverpool. Anyway, Toha, Earthy just set up Bristol City's equaliser. There you go. Well done to him. John, good evening to you. Nobody can judge anyone after a few months working with someone else's tools. He's come in, first of all, to steady the ship. Exactly. Let's please pull in the same direction. Totally agree. Totally agree. Jack, at least Callum Wilson didn't. Can you imagine when he came on? I thought, here we go. He's going to get his customary goal against us, isn't he? Razor. Keep Areola, Scarles, Kilman, Todibo, Wan-Bissaka, Bowen, Kudus, Somerville, Paquetá. If corrupt FA and FIFA clear him from all that stuff. Absolutely. Keep Areola, yeah. Scarles, yeah. Kilman, yeah. Todibo, yeah. Wan-Bissaka, yeah. Bowen, yeah. Kudus, yeah. Somerville, yeah. Paquetá, yeah. Yeah, don't disagree with that. Neil, Nigel P, Monday night, 1-0 down in a lottery jackpot win, looking more likely than a goal. You can't blame people for giving up this season. Can't, but don't we go there to support the team? I don't know. I mean, I stay right till the end. And there's more for me, I think. I don't know. Daniel, evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. We need midfielders in the summer. Don't disagree. I'd sell to rebuild any of our midfield at the moment. Emotions must be put aside for any individual player, or next season will be a washout too. Don't disagree with you on that. Fred, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Jack again. The only players I'd keep are Kilman, Wan-Bissaka, Bowen, Somerville, Todibo, if he can somehow play for more than 60 minutes. There's something about his fitness, isn't there? Which is why he's not getting the 90 minutes. I kind of do expect him to do so by now. Daniela, so still, I think a lot of home fans are going out their way not to create atmosphere, not to... Why do they bother going then? If they're going out there not to create atmosphere, don't bother turning up. That's the best way not to create it. Bonnie, Kadua hasn't had much time since Wickham changed their manager. No, he hasn't. And I'm worried about Marshall with a change of manager there as well, whether he's going to now be dropped. I hope not. Neil, surely if we're going to try and mirror a Brighton approach to business, there won't be large fees going forward. There won't be. I talked about this last week, Neil. You know, I'll be very, very surprised if we spend over 25 million for any one player in the summer. I'll be very surprised. Michael, Alvarez was playing most of the game in the 10 still. Was that why Potter subbed him? Was he playing in the 10? I'm kind of looking at that and I'm thinking to myself, was he that far advanced? There were times when he was up there, yeah, far further forward. But Souček was much further forward than he was most of the time. I don't know. I saw him, Alvarez... I wonder if what Alvarez is being asked to do, maybe with James Ward-Prowse being a little bit more of a pivot, maybe Alvarez is the one being asked to try to do that box-to-box type role, because 1 minute is at the back, next minute is further forward, etc., and he keeps in to switch it, and he did that in the last game as well. Yeah, and maybe that is why he was subbed. Yeah, Fred. We were poor, did not deserve a win, but what is the point of VAR if they let blatant fouls leading to a goal? I agree. I don't think we should have won, but should we have lost? I don't know. I don't think so. Nigel, I still think, Neil, that supporters need to show support and not walk out, as that does not help the team. We were still only 1-0 down at that stage. That's my thought. I'm not having a go at anyone. Each to their own. You pay your money, you make your choices. But with 20 minutes to go, yeah, 1-0 down, you try and G up the team for the... I mean, you know, as someone said earlier in the show, the best part of that game that we had with first 10 and the last 10. Now, if we had a much fuller, crowd, rather than it being half empty by the last 10 minutes of the game, who knows? You know, the team picked up and all of a sudden a bit of crowd cheering and might just got us that edge. I don't know. George, good evening. Disappointing performance, but players need to change style. Morno from Aussie. Morno, good morning from Australia, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for watching. Bonnie, would like to know why Guilherme didn't come on last time he did. He added so much energy to the team. I agree. I don't disagree with that at all. This was exactly the game that it shouted out for pace like Guilherme. Liverpool PSG going into extra time 1-1. I got you now. So now that affects the Sunday game. Okay. Epic. It's too early to judge Potter, but so far I'm not impressed. So far I am impressed, and I'll tell you for why. Because he has shored up the defence. We are now not, we had 2 clean sheets before Monday, and conceding the 1 goal to a foul. I think, you could see that there's an improvement there. And in the early parts, in the first couple of games that he took over, he just went for it, didn't he? The FA Cup game against Aston Villa. And we were so excited in that game. So I've seen differences. He's got to now gel all that together. He's got to get that defence, that solid defence, and that good attacking prowess all in one. Glenn, don't think the fans are turning on Potter. It's just pure for us. I think they are, Glenn. I think you'll find that some of the comments that I've been dealing with, especially after the show I did last night, and also you've only got to look at. I did myself a favour this week. Since last week's game since the game against Leicester, when I was going on Twitter and looking at the absolute tirade of. We won, by the way, let's not forget. But the tirade of sort of negativity after that game, I thought, right, put Twitter to one side. I'd literally gone in about 3 times this week. And you know what? I feel better for it. But trust me, Glenn, there's a lot of diatribe going on social media, already suggesting that Potter shouldn't be around. Paul, Ferguson looks like a waste of time. Relying on Danny Ings, should have played Guilherme. I agree on that. Michael, about Ferguson, about Ings, and about Guilherme. Potter needs help from the board. They need to back him 100%. What does backing look like, though? because we are not going to go out and spend 30, 40 million pounds on players. Absolutely not. So will they back him? I think they will. I think, but it will be a very different type of backing this summer. Jack, the ref was the same one that gave a penalty to Sheffield United for Areola chinning McBurney's elbow. Says it all, doesn't it? Usual. Trains and work style may have something to do with it. Trains and work. Yes, I hear that. I hear that. I understand that. I know even my mate Wiggy had to leave slightly early, but he left it as late as possible. You know, otherwise because he lives way out and, you know, he would have missed his last track. And I get that. I hear that. But 20 minutes before the end? 20 minutes before the end? I can understand if it was 10 or less, but 20? I don't know. Adam, too many sideway and backway passes, no intent going forward, and fans so quiet. Stadium just isn't enjoyable. It's a hard watch sometimes. Not enough singing for me. No singing, full stop. Andrew, moving to a big stadium has managed to show that a lot of fans aren't supporters of the club at all. I'd stay 90 minutes if we played down the park. Me too. Me too. But then fair enough. Fair enough. I don't have far to go. You know, I can get on the underground and I'm home within less than an hour. So I get that. I understand that. Totally do, which is why I'm not criticizing fans for making their choices. Scott, 100% agree with fans leaving early. You have committed to go to the game, so stay till the end. I don't get it. Montana, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Why is Casey not getting even a look in? Defensive-wise, with the greatest of respect to him, I don't think we need Casey. But it's more attack that we are having problems with now. Bonnie, I always stay to the end no matter what the score is. Me too. Even when we got thumped, you know, what was it, 6-1 or 5-2 or whatever against Arsenal, I still stay till the bloody end. All my mates had fucked up. All my mates had gone by then. Daniel, I think the modern fun demands too much too quickly. If there's a song that sums this up, it's Queen. I want it now. Chippy, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Tony Bo's a 60-minute dollar man. Bill, Potter has gone back to basics, fix the problems first, defence, then look at our attacking, lowest attempts on goal in the Premiership, stick with the plan and trust in the players. Totally agree. I totally agree. He's had to fix the basics because we as a fan base kept moaning that every team was knocking 4 or 5 past us. Even crappy Leicester got 3 against us. You know, he had to. He's got no choice, has he? Josh, I'm finding it hard to enjoy following the club on social media at the moment. Mate, join the club. No matter the result, it's so overwhelmingly negative. Things were so much worse under Lopetegui and people demand so much already. You are 100% spot on, mate. I think social media just makes it a lot worse. I mean, here I am. I am part of the social media. I run a YouTube channel. But I know people sometimes say to me, you know, half glass full man. I see the positive in everything, even when I shouldn't. And I accept that. Sometimes I'm too positive for my own good. But it's maybe to counter all that negativity that's out there. Josh, you're absolutely right. Montana. Still, I hope that the Souček to Everton links are true. I would take 20 million. Actually, Moyes would pay 30 for him and Ward-Prowse too. It's going to be interesting this summer. The summer transfer window going to be. I'm finishing off the script for that about who, because last week I did a show about all the latest transfer news, and I did promise that I'll be talking about who might be leaving. So look out for that. That'll come out. What day are we? We're Tuesday. I'll say tomorrow, but I know I won't do it. So look out for it on Thursday. Gadsten, good evening. Gadsten Flag, good evening to you. Earthy got the assist. Fantastic. Excuse me. I'm really pleased for Earthy. Did he play the whole game or did he come on as a sub? Neil, no problem with your view, Nigel. This season has been such a sickener. In 48 years and in few relegations, I've never felt as frustrated as this season. We've had worse. What about last season? People were very frustrated then. Rody, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I stayed till the end. I've got a 2-hour journey home. There you go. Bill, Alvarez played a similar style at Ajax. He carries the ball up the pitch. Under Moyes and Lopetegui, it was purely defensive midfield. Okay. Thank you for that. I didn't know that. I thought Alvarez was always a defensive midfielder. And, of course, he's played as a centre-back as well. Fat Git, the drop. So there you go. There's Potter's reasoning for putting Alvarez as a kind of a number 10. Fat Git, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. The drop-off in our league position is scary. We're not going any further down. We're not getting relegated. 33 points is more or less safe. Bonnie, Stel, did you help with Antonio, Tifo and the Bobby Moore lower? No, I was I'm right on the edge. So it was done in the middle tiers, but The seating on either side missed out. Michael, under Loppy, we averaged 2 goals conceded a game. Under Potter, it's dropped to 0.8. Yeah, and I talked about that, didn't I, the other week about the number of goals we conceded on Lopetegui. He's halved it. He's more than halved it, Potter. So there is progress. Kevin, thing is with the fans, half are tourists, not true West Ham fans. We have lost so many because of the London Stadium. You're going to say something else there, but yeah, I get your point there as well. And they won't stay. If they find it boring, they're not fans. They're leaving, aren't they? Philip, missed the start of the show, but as I commented last night, it was boring. 2 in attack and 8 defenders. Midfield has been the absolute main problem all last season. This one needs a pacey central defensive midfielder, a must. I agree with you. I don't disagree. There are problems, but Potter can only deal with what he's got available to him. Infamy. Sometimes I wish we had the delusional patience that Gooner fans have had for Arteta. Good evening, Ian. I hope you're well. That was a tough watch. I don't know. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not agreeing with you because I just didn't. I thought there were pockets of that game that were poor, but then there were pockets of that game that I was like going, "Come on, we can do this." We just didn't have a cutting edge up front. Moutster. We had all the dynamics of a reversing elephant. Jack. On retrospect, Newcastle pressed us throughout the match and defended very well, which they did. Fat Git. I think with the team we now have, we would be top 7 easy if we were at Upton Park. That stadium is soulless. Is it just a stadium, though? Or I don't know, I don't know because we've seen good times at that stadium, few and far between, but I remember some excellent, it can be atmospheric in that stadium. We know it can. We've seen it. We've experienced it. Josh, if the game day experience was better, then I think regardless of the journey home, more people would stay, but it's genuinely terrible, so I get leaving early to get home quickly. Vonnie, we have had more Monday evening matches this season than any other Premier League team. Much prefer weekend games. Maybe that's the impact. Midweek games, maybe that's the problem. And we've not only had Monday games, we've got Tuesday games coming up. We've had a Thursday game and all that sort of stuff. That's not great. That doesn't help. Montana, manure building a mosquito net for a stay, and I saw it. Yeah, looks impressive, doesn't it? Sean, good evening, mate. George Earthy, 90-minute assist for Bristol City, 1-1 draw with Sheffield United. Good evening to you, mates. Ian, I so hope he changes this squad. Don't expect wholesale changes, but there will be changes. Wiggy, good evening. Ray, good evening, Hammerette. How are you? Good to see you here. Michael, Socek might not be the best player, but at least he gives us 100% most games. He loves West Ham. He absolutely does. John, didn't entertain at Chelsea or Arsenal. Played a low block. That's not... I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. I was both games, and it was extremely entertaining. He set us up in the right way against both those teams. We got cheated out of a result at Chelsea, and we got a win at Arsenal. And I'll tell you something. They were excellent. They were technically good games, John. In all honesty, they were. They were fantastic performances at both those stadiums. Montana, the final would have been way more enticing if it was Spurs, Newcastle. Imagine the tension. You don't want Spurs at a final, do you? He came on the 63rd minute. Thank you very much. Daniela, Kevin, but fans need to get over the stadium move. Coming up to 9 years, we're not going back to the bowling, so everyone get over it. Move on. See, this is the other thing. It's been 9 years now. Is it really just the stadium? Because we have seen that stadium rocking. We absolutely have. So is it just the stadium, or have the fans got something to do with it as well, or have the players? Are the players putting in the effort? Yeah, I know. I've said, it's a conundrum for me because when people talk about this, it's a stadium. I say, look, it's a mixture of things. Yes, the stadium it's really weird last night. Maybe this is why the game, this is why I didn't think the game was boring because I was looking around. My God, I was standing there while the game was going on. I was looking at the stadium and I was thinking, how many gaps are there now? Now, I complained about the West Stand when it was reconfigured, and I said, why didn't they bring it near the touch line? And then I kept looking at it last night. I think, do you know what? They've actually joined it with the top tier. They've got the press boxes and they've got the where the directors sit and all that sort of stuff. But in general, there's a much closer connection. And then when I looked at you look at the other stands, and then you think, okay, well that's like a cop end, and that's all joined up anyway. And then the only areas actually where we've got big gaps are actually directly behind the goals, between the lower tier and the upper tier. And I kept thinking that's where the screens are. Now, why don't they just build a tier of seating to join that up, and move those bloody screens elsewhere? They don't have to be there. They can be on the side or even further higher up on the roof or whatever. And then all of a sudden you'll fill those gaps. Those are the worst two gaps behind each goal, between the lower and the upper tier, because you look around the stands, you look on the west side and you think that's okay. And then you look at the Billy Bond stand and you think that's all right. Then Trevor Brookings stand and the Bobby Moore stand, it's just the bits from the where the screens are. That's the worst bit. There's massive gaps there. Now, if they did something about that, would that improve it? Because the sides actually aren't bad. And we talked about this last week about, I've been banging on about they should bring the stands closer to the touchline. And Nigel, it's only because Nigel mentioned it a few weeks ago in a Friday show, when he said, no, you're probably better off moving the stands further back, so they join up even more with the upper tiers. And he's right. Because if you've got a bigger gap around if the fans are closer together, then that might generate a better atmosphere. I don't know. What do you think? Rowley. Defense looks way better. Tadibo Kilman partnership starting to gel. Wan-Bissaka great. Give Potter the summer. Judge him on next season. Absolutely agree. Hammerit. I don't really get why Alvarez was subbed off again. I think he wanted to change it. Put a more attacking. Someone like Soler and Paquetá on. I kind of get it. I understand it. But maybe I would have just dropped Alvarez deeper and put on more attacking players. Ian. Let's not forget, we were leaking goals badly under Lopetegui and Moyes prior to that. You get the feeling we won't do that now. That alone is progress. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree on that. I totally agree with you on that point. Glennie, Kudus looks like he's lost confidence. That chance when he was through on goal, I was expecting to shoot with his right foot, but he turned inside on his left and the chance was gone. He needs a goal really badly. But I'll tell you something. Kudus's input in the last few games, I think it's been really, look, there's been no end product. And I get that. And I know he'll be judged on how many goals and how many assists. But his endeavor, he is actually putting in a real shift. He really is. The lad needs a goal really, really badly. Andrew, I think people have rose-tinted glasses about Bolin. Plus, people think make up their minds early on. Well, I remember, Andrew, and I'm sure many of you who are old enough to remember, you could hear a pin drop in the Bolin at times. It wasn't that. Yes, of course, when it was buzzing, the fans close to the pitch and all that sort of stuff. Yes, it was absolutely intimidating on its day. But there were days when you could hear a pin drop there. Infamy. Estelle covered any updates regarding Paquetá? And he said, yes, mate, I did a show on it last week. So please go and look at that. I'm not going to talk about it tonight. I did a specific show on that midweek last week. Unfortunately, I can't get you a link, but if you look at the back catalogue videos, I did one there. Michael, too many gaps in the London Stadium. Fill the gaps, bring fans closer together. You would get better atmosphere. Some games, pockets of fans singing different songs. Get rid of the wall. I totally agree. Get rid of the wall. What do you think of my thoughts, though, Michael? When I look at the sides, they kind of actually look all right. It's just behind each goal. The gap between where the screens are. Get rid of those. Put some seating up there. Put some safe seating up there that sort of goes in. To where the screens are, and move the screens elsewhere. Would that work? I wonder if it would. I don't know. Rowley, the boring pins in your eyes. Football has a lot to do with the lack of atmosphere. It's it's the chicken and egg syndrome, isn't it? Jack, at the beginning of that game, we were doing really well the first 10 minutes, and the crowd was up for it. And then we started to lose possession and the crowd went completely quiet. Why not keep the momentum? Why not G up the players and get them, sort of help them out? Jack, our interplay on our right wing is great. Not so much on the left, and zero through the middle. don't disagree with that. We rely a lot on the right. Platinum. It's neither the stadium or the fans. It's the brand of football. Okay. Chris left Ilford 10 years ago. Never went back. No chance. I'll ever set foot in that goldfish bowl. Vonnie, need to practice throw-ins like throw to someone in a West Ham shirt. Anthony, it was nice to see Antonio coming on for a good applause. He has a better response by the crowd than the team did. Funky T, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. It's down to the fans to create the atmosphere. I've been to some games at that stadium where the atmosphere was rocking. Admittedly, these were European games. I remember a few other games, league games, where it's been rocking as well. Hammer it. Yeah, Antonio was the Antonio part was the best section of the evening. The following 100 minutes were, well, I disagree. They weren't shit. Usual. It's an awful stadium, and the football has been underwhelming for large parts of the season. Paul Ariola made some fantastic saves. He did indeed. Michael, away days for fans always better. Win, lose, or draw. They are. They're a great day out. Looking forward to Everton at the weekend. I hope I'm sober enough to do a show afterwards. Toha, I'm dipping in and out of this. I thought they finished. I feel guilty now. Is Budgie's show still on? Is Clive's show still on? I thought they'd finished by now. My apologies. Philip, absolutely agree about Kudus. Never gave up. Just needs a goal. Chris, knock it down, rebuild an actual football ground. Never going to happen. Good evening, Rico. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Get my season ticket tomorrow for our new stadium. Good luck, mate. And I would wish you luck at the weekend, but I'm not going to. But I hope you're well, Rico. Sean, should have made it look like the Luzhniki Stadium with retractable seating over the athletics track. Well, that's what we were promised. Sean, moving those screens would be a start. If Liverpool get knocked out, Montana, will the Premier League still get 5 teams in the Champions League? I do not know, but I'll find out for you. Right, let's go into, let's review. Got a lot of reviewing to do. Right. What was I going to say? Yes, I know what I was going to say. The match review. Before the game started, as has already been mentioned, West Ham fans celebrated the return of Mikel Antonio, who received a warm welcome, warm round of applause from the fan base. It was good. It was, quite emotional for Antonio. He received a really, really warm welcome, and I'm a really warm return, and I'm glad that he did. And it was also an opportunity for the Ironworks Alliance to unveil the specially made tifo for Antonio in the Bobby Moore lower. So that was good to see as well. And well done to them for having done that. So about the game itself. Now, despite seeing Soufal, Fulkrug and Paquetá training in midweek leading up to the Newcastle game, it was only Paquetá who made it back into the team on Monday night, where he was named on the bench. And then for the third game in a row, let me get that. Where is it? There it is. For the third game in a row, Potter named an unchanged side. Look, now you can criticize it, but I can totally understand why Potter went for the same team. Why change a winning lineup? Look, let's be honest. The game against Leicester wasn't great, even though we got a win, but we got a win, and the game before that against Arsenal was a really good, hard-fought game as well. So I got that. I understand that. Why change a winning lineup? A manager would say to you, if that lineup is winning, then you shouldn't tamper with it. So I totally got why he didn't change the starting lineup. But perhaps in hindsight, what may have been the right team for the counter-attack against Arsenal with a win wasn't necessarily the right team against Leicester. And despite our win against them, and it wasn't necessarily the right team against Newcastle on Monday night either. Now, I'll come back to this later when I ask the question whether Potter is following the same path as David Moyes did by being too defensive-minded or not. Now, still, the game itself, I said in my immediate post-match analysis that I found the game frustrating. and that I believe we should have gotten more from it. Now, I found it frustrating because of that, because I thought we deserved at least a point. Now, a lot of people found it frustrating because there's been commented on tonight's show and on others and in other chats, they found it boring. Still, I'm not suggesting that we should have won the game, but you need because you do need to create your chances, and you got to shoot on target to stand any chance of scoring. And our clear cut chances are somewhat lacking, have been lacking over the past few games. But we started brightly. Well, I mean, we should have been 1-0 up within a couple of minutes, within a minute of the game. We had a golden opportunity to score within the first minute when Souček skied it way over the bar. He should have just been composed and we would have been a goal up. I wonder what sort of game it would have turned out to be then. Now, we talked about Kudus, and he was the one that created that chance by taking it down the left wing, giving it a good cross in. I think Bowen sort of nudged it forward with his head, and it fell perfectly for Souček. Thereafter, Newcastle, they settled and got a handle on the game. The busiest of the two keepers was Areola, who pulled off some, as people have said, who pulled off some excellent saves in both halves of the game. One of them was skewed off Kilman, wasn't it? Where he had to twist to save it before it dipped into the net. But we certainly, I think in the first half, for me, we certainly looked better in the first half. We created most of our chances. Well, we created most of our chances, albeit not that many at all. But we just didn't have the end product. We fell away in the second half. Newcastle got more and more of control of the game, and it was getting difficult for us to get back in it. The substitutions that Potter made didn't work. And that's the second game in a row where the subs have been ineffective. And I'll come to those as well in a minute. But he could do nothing about Newcastle's goal. Look, contentious? I think absolutely. Max Kilman is not the sort of player, from what we've grown accustomed to be the sort of player that will just dive, or just go down a brush of a feather. He got a two-handed push in the back. All right, it wasn't a big push, but it doesn't matter. There was contact there, and he lost, and because of that, he lost his balance, because he would have cleared the ball had he not been pushed. Now, some fans are suggesting that Kilman went down too easily, but like I said, he doesn't strike me as the sort of player that would do that. He had a clear view of the ball. It was coming his way. All he had to do was head it away. Why on earth would he duck down for it? Then there was a suggestion that players behind him should have anticipated the ball and cleared it. In all honesty, when you're looking at that ball coming in, all you see is Kilman getting up to clear it. You think it's going to be more or less cleared. So you kind of, to adjust that quickly is difficult to have done. I don't blame them. I can't blame the defence for that goal, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, maybe if there's anything to blame, it was to allow Harvey Barnes to cross the ball in the first place. He was stood just outside the 18-yard box, and maybe we should have closed him down a bit sooner. If there was anything to blame, maybe that was it. But the players inside the box anticipating, I think Kilman was pushed. It's the lightest of touches, but he was pushed. Should any player behind him anticipate that ball? I don't think so. And then, of course, later in the game, we had another decision that went against us. Now, look, people say almost half jokingly, if Bowen had the name Salah on his back and he was wearing a red shirt, that would have been given a penalty straight away, 100%. And you know what? I agree with that, because Bowen is another player that doesn't go down easy. He was pushed. I mean, you actually look at Guimaraes' arm. It's outstretched. He basically pushed him out the way. And that was in the box, and that was a penalty. Let's be frank. If that push was on a player in a top 6 team, they would have immediately been given that decision. I'm not looking at either incident to suggest that that's why we lost the game, because we didn't do enough to win the game, and we didn't do enough to get a point out of it. But at the same time, I think, the goal that was given against us could have either been balanced out by giving us a penalty, or could have been balanced out by the goal being disallowed because of the push. And that's why I came out of that game frustrated, because at the very least, I thought this is going to become 0-0, or it's going to be a draw. And the disappointment for me is that I felt again that we were cheated out of a point. We didn't deserve to win, but I don't think we deserve to lose. Look, there was a lot of endeavour, absolutely. No end product, though. That's the problem that Potter now needs to address. I believe we're sitting at the bottom of the league for shots, I think it is, shots on target or just shots, or etc. So whilst Potter has rightly sorted, and what we've already discussed, whilst Potter has rightly sorted out our defence, let's not forget what we said earlier on. We've been leaking goals for fun, and by shoring up the defence at this moment in time, our attack has suffered. Now, which brings me back to that starting lineup. Should Potter have played the same formation against Newcastle? And you look at it and you think to yourself, you know what? It's worked, kind of worked, and that should have been enough. But would you change? Would you have changed a winning team? It sounds to me a lot of fans, would have wanted a change, for a different team. Who would you have put in there? Would you have put Paquetá in there over, I don't know, Alvarez or Souček or whatever? Possibly. Now, when Potter made his changes, expecting there to be an impact, unfortunately, that didn't work. So we took out Todibo because for some reason we know he can't finish a game 90 minutes. And he took out Souček, he took out Alvarez, and he put more attack-minded players on, Paquetá and Soler. And Mavropanos, Mavropanos, I don't think he'll be here next season, to be quite honest with you. But that didn't have an impact. He was hoping that would change things, but unfortunately, he kept the formation more or less the same. And the only time it changed is when Ferguson was brought on. He took off Cresswell, he pushed Ferguson up front, and then Bowen and Kudus went out wide. And then you had more of a attack-minded looking team. But even that didn't work. Now, the last change he made was when he brought on Ings. Now, this is where I think he should have brought on Guilherme. Because it was evident that Ferguson impact wasn't working. I don't know what's happening with Ferguson. I personally don't think he's the right player for West Ham United. But I know a lot of fans are saying, well, you can't judge him until you see him playing from the start, etc. I'm not so sure. But I certainly don't think Danny Ings was the solution either, to be quite honest with you. I think Danny Ings came on and didn't offer much more than what we already had. For me, this was the game when you should have given Guilherme an outing. And for me, maybe, just maybe, with his pace, that might have made a difference. It would have given, just like it gave Chelsea food for thought, maybe bringing Guilherme on with his pace would have given Newcastle food for thought. And I would have rather have had Guilherme on than Ings or Ferguson. But the question is Potter still being too cautious with his lineup? I think we've already discussed it. He's trying to do the best with what he's got. Certainly by half time, there was some level of optimism. It was 0-0. We weren't clinging on. We were in the game despite the lack of chances. So I totally get why Potter didn't make changes at half time. And I totally get why in the 60, 66 minute or whatever it was, he then decided to make changes. And it was right for him to do so. But for me, he was right. Look, personally, I think he was right to select the same team from the start. But maybe he should have. And given that we were still in the game at halftime, personally, for me, I think it was right for him to continue with that setup. Because one of the things that we've been talking about is the fact that our defense has suffered so badly. He's got to get that basics right. But unfortunately, this is the problem. The balancing act is what Potter has realized for me is that in the squad that he's got, it's imbalanced. It's a totally imbalanced squad. So what happens is when you play, when you shore up the defense, you haven't actually got the right players to give you more of an attacking minded progress. When you're not worrying about the defense and put too many attacking players on, that's when your defense suffers. Our squad is completely imbalanced. And this is what Potter has got to try and do in the summer. He knows, he's no fool, that we've got to get ourselves a good defensive box-to-box midfielder in the summer. It's got to be a number one priority, a box-to-box midfielder. Someone with pace, someone who knows how to carry the ball out, a bit like what that number 41 did when he used to be with us. A bit like that. Someone who can carry the ball out from defense, someone who can run with it, someone who can be that clear box-to-box midfielder, and we don't have that. And that's got to be a priority. So what Potter has done is he's gone, look, we're leaking too many goals. That's not good. Let's make sure that we're defensively sound, but we know we're going to suffer going forward. And that's what's happened, unfortunately. We're suffering going forward just because of that. Will Potter get it right with the remainder of the season? I don't know, to be quite honest with you. I can see us playing a few more games in the manner that we played. I don't have a problem, by the way, playing 3 at the back with a 3-4-3 formation or a 3-5-2 formation. I think that's absolutely fine because it keeps us tight at the back, but it's getting the right players up front. Look, someone said about having 2 wingers, Bowen and Kudus doesn't work as our 2 front men. That's probably right. Would I put Ferguson there? I don't know. Maybe, but I'm not so sure Ferguson has got the ability to actually give us any more up front. There's something about Ferguson that that doesn't wash with me. I think Ferguson is, I called him this last night after the game, a bit of a lump. And I don't think we need a bit of a lump up front. Now, in this game, ironically, in the setup that Potter is adopting, someone like Antonio would have been ideal because he'll run the flanks and all that sort of stuff. That's what I was expecting Ferguson to do, but he's not doing that. Ferguson, I don't think he seems to be willing, or he's not able, or he's not capable. And people keep complaining that he's not starting. Well, I see what he's doing when he's coming on. And he doesn't seem to be offering a lot to me to suggest that he should be knocking on the door for that starting berth. I don't know. Will he start against Everton at the weekend? I doubt it very much. I think Paquetá will be back. I think he'll make some other tweaks. But will he play Ferguson? I'm not sure. Look, it's a balancing act. And one of the things he's got to do, like I said, he's got to get a central, dynamic, box-to-box midfielder in. And the next thing is, next season, he needs, because I think he'll continue to want to play 3 at the back, is he needs a proper left-sided central defender. Now, I think Creswell has done okay. And it may be next season that a Gerd comes back and he plays in that role. But if it ain't a Gerd, I think the next thing he'll do, he'll go out and buy himself a central defender who plays on the left side of a 3. So there's 2 positions straight away, a box-to-box midfielder and a central defender, and, of course, a dynamic striker. I'm not sure Ferguson is that dynamic striker, to be quite honest with you. And he needs to go and get himself a striker that's got pace, a striker that's going to go out there, run the flanks, etc., but be a proper focal point in the centre of the park. So those, to me, that's why the squad at this moment in time is in balance. And that's why Potter is trying to do the best of what he's got, because it's not balanced. He's shoring up the defense. He's compensating, by shoring up the defense. And that's the detriment to our attacking play. If he went the other way, I think our defense will suffer as well. He needs minimum. I know we need more, but at this moment in time, he needs a left-sided central defender, a box-to-box midfielder with pace, and a pacey striker. And then you'll see a very different balance to the squad. And then he'll have the options he wants to play more attacking, open football, whilst being defensively sound as well. But you tell me what you think. I might be completely wrong. Let's see. Montana. If Liverpool get knocked out, ask that. Sorry, I don't know the answer. Chris, need to rid the Club London nonsense. Also, Yasu to you, mate. I'm very well. I hope you are too. Chris Kilman was class. I think Kilman gets better and better. Gary, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Graham, as a West Ham fan living in Canada, I wait with bated breath for our weekly football fix, but I must admit, I actually fell asleep watching the second half. Michael, England get 5 teams in the Champions League, but if an English team wins Champions League, English teams wins Europe, we can get 7. Anthony, yes, 5 teams will be allowed next season in the Champions League, says Sky. Montana, knock it down and build a true stadium with retractable seating. Well, it's not going to happen because the board ain't going to do it. Club London or whoever owns the stadium aren't likely to do it either. Chris, liking the Ward-Prowse at the base of midfield, and yet people have been criticising Ward-Prowse as well at the weekend, at Monday, sorry. All of us in the UK, Graham, are with you. Canadians versus Trump stupidity. Let's keep politics out of this. Chris, Ferguson looks like a dud. Hopefully we don't spunk any money. Well, there might be a good reason now why we didn't push for an obligation to buy, or why we didn't agree for an obligation to buy when Brighton wanted it. Andrew, if they think it's a dive, he should be booked. Agreed. If it was Saka or Salah, he gets the pen. And if Van Dijk or Saliba get that push, goal would have been disallowed. Bang, spot on. You know, I hate thinking that VAR and the refereeing, etc., is biased. But it's when things like this happen, then you ask yourself, come on. Because you're absolutely right. If Salah or Saka went down, they would have been given a penalty straight away. No second thought. Anthony, Chris, didn't Kilman nearly score an own goal, but thanks to her, it was a great save. Matt, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Missed the start, 22-23. You missed almost an hour. We have to catch up. Yesterday's sums up sometimes may be good, sometimes may be crap. If you know, you know. I know. Matt again. Bruno, better is a soft lad. Even if the wind blows, he falls down. Bruno, better. Need betting rules for divers and soft play going down. In my opinion, it's better. But who are you talking about? Who's Bruno didn't go down. It was explain. I don't understand that. Michael, we have the worst corrupt officials in footballing world. It feels like it at times. Daniele, young ex-West Ham Frank Lampard is doing a nice job at commentary. By the way, his dad was one of my West Ham heroes. I haven't been following. I'm glad he's doing well. Sean, we flew out of the blocks last night, then allowed them to off the hook by having Ward-Prowse dilly-dally around on the ball. And his 5-yard passes after the first 10 minutes, he slows everything to a crawl. Maybe he's the one that gets dropped at the weekend. Paul, Son gets a penalty for diving on Sunday. Bowen gets nothing when blatantly taken out. This is it. This is what's so upsetting about football. It's not consistent. Fred, only need a slight push when someone is off the ground. Clearly showed on replay. There you go. Daniela, Gary J, I feel for you. I chat a lot to Americans. Not gonna. You keep that chat to yourselves. Sean, Bowen pushed, yes, but what about the handball during the same incident? Sean, you've lost me. I'm going to have to watch it again because I didn't notice the handball. What else have we got here? Gary, to Daniela. Yeah. When are you coming back, mate? You let us know. Montana, I hope Moyes really comes to our rescue in the summer and signs most of our dead wood. But yes, look, if you're new to the channel, not as many viewers tonight. Maybe Tuesdays are no good for me. But if you're new to the channel, please do hit the like button and please subscribe if you've yet to subscribe. Fred, all good coaches start with sorting defense out, then the spine and pacey wingers and forwards with a Pirlo type midfielder running the show. Easy. There you go. You've sorted it out for us. Anthony, you knew you were going to get, and you weren't going to get anything out of the game when Potter put on Mavropanos. But can't blame Mavropanos. I mean, they scored the goal before he came on. Montana. Still, are there any truths regarding Dan Ashworth links? We should go for Kevin Thirlwall, recently released by Everton. No. Well, there's a mixture of news there. I talked about Dan Ashworth about 2 months ago when Potter first came in and suggested that there may be some movings there. But apparently the senior sources said we don't have a lot of money and Ashworth would cost us quite a bit of money to bring in. There's no compensation, but his salary and all that. But let's see what happens. Potts is the new number 41. Don't disagree with that. Pens for Liverpool versus PSG. Chip, I understand Potter playing 5-3-2, but Eddie Howe allowed Harvey Barnes to stay up, and this pushed Wan-Bissaka back, which cut off our regular attacking avenue and ability to alter the dynamics further. I agree with that. Our wing backs didn't get the sort of the game time that they normally would be afforded. So I agree with that. That was a good tactic by Newcastle. We signed Potter because he was cheap. Neil, no, maybe he was. But I like Potter. Look, Potter wasn't my first choice. I think I made that very clear several times over. But he's won me over. And I think Potter will be good for West Ham. We've got to give the man time. Montana. Still, what's happened to Kudus? Now I see why Ten Hag never wanted him at Manure. Piss poor this season. I did talk about that earlier. I think his endeavours there, without a shadow of a doubt. And it's what I've said before. I think it's second season syndrome. It's like a band. Someone said this to me last night at the stadium. I thought, yeah, that makes sense, that analogy. It's like a band. Your favourite band. You think about some of the bands that you love. Their first album smashed it out of the park. The second album, oh, fuck, well, what was that shit? And then the third album, there they are. They're back. And I think that's what's going to happen to Kudus. You know, the first season, smashed it out of the park. This season, he's been found wanting a little bit, and people have other teams have sussed him out, etc. Next season, watch him fly. And the one thing I'm worried about is that fans keep saying he should go, and then he ends up at Liverpool or somewhere else, and then you see him fly. I think we've got to give him a chance. I'd like to keep him next season because I think next season he'll come good again. Mark, giving up 1 goal in 3 games is pretty darn good against Arsenal, Leicester, and Newcastle. There you go. Daniel, could this Ferguson deal be a sweetener for another player from Brighton in the summer? Who do you mean? Which one? Neil, my thoughts were the defence wasn't great, but many of the goals were conceded, came about from our poor midfield. I think our midfield, well, there's another thing then. So he's not only sorted out the defence, he's sorted out the midfield in front of it. Because I've often said the same thing, Neil, that our midfield has been their fault for allowing so many goals to be conceded. First line of defence should be the very front, and then your midfielders, and then your defenders. But our defence has not been good. Andrew, getting the right personalities is the number one job. Look how good we were when the boy band loved each other. I know JL was an idiot for not staying, but we haven't played quite like it since. We weren't bad after he left, but it started to go downhill. I mean, that was Moyes' disappointing moment, wasn't it? James, evening chat, can't stay long, up in the wee hours, but I hope Mavs was booing all our neggies. Thankfully, he didn't get booed when he came on. Who else have we got here? Earthy putting in a shift. I'm really pleased for him. Michael, 3-1 to PSG. Okay. Michael, Sullivan does not want another director of football. I've heard he still wants to keep his fingers in the pot. He's kind of proved that, hasn't he, by getting involved. Sean, yes. Watch it again, Stel. Guimaraes handled the ball immediately after Bowen goes down. So there you go. So there's a double reason why we should have got a penalty. I thought you meant one of our players handled it. Glennie, Law 12 states that pushing is a direct free kick offence. It doesn't mention if it's a soft push or a hard one. That is not. Had it been anywhere else on the pitch, a free kick would have been given. Exactly that. Right. Are they going out? Have they gone out? Shall I stay on until you tell me? Because I've done the show now. So now we're going to hear whether Liverpool are going. Have they gone out? Have they been? Because if they've gone out, that finishes this show on a high. JL didn't sign because Man United did not want to sell him to us. Yeah. And then they let him down. But anyway, that's in the past. All right, people. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Really much appreciated. Tuesday nights don't look so good for me. Let's see how it goes. I don't know if we've got any more Monday night games. I don't think we have. So I'll be back on next Monday. Of course, I'll be talking about the Everton game. There are shows coming up this week, so do look out for them. Like I said, I did a show last week about the players that we're apparently signing. Liverpool are out. Well done. Good. Apparently good. In all honesty, good. So yeah, I did a show last week about the players that we're apparently signing. I'm going to do a show coming up this week about the players that could be leaving the club. So do look out for that. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Much appreciated with your comments. Always welcome. And have a good rest of the week. And I'll be back very soon.